Sharda, to you first. Now, there are two parts really to this. The first is that we have learned that the BCCI in fact did miss the deadline when it comes to filing that complaint with the ICC. Second, if they did in fact miss the deadline, were they left with any other choice but to withdraw the complaint?
I'm not exactly sure that, missing the deadline by, say, 3 hours is what has caused this entire matter to be settled peaceably. I'm not denying, what sources are saying and so on. I just find that a little hard to believe that, oh, you missed the deadline and therefore you can't do this. Did they, one just wonders that if they had gone ahead with the complaint that they'd made and the charge that, how are you going to lay the charge? Let's take this a step further ahead and say, what charge were you going to lay? It's a level 2 charge about, bad, against the spirit of sport and against the spirit of the game and so on. Do you have the evidence to lay that charge? If you have the entire evidence that was discussed by Virat Kohli at his press conference, which was about these extra 2 other incidents that he was talking of and the complaints and so on, is there enough evidence to bring that up as well? So why not charge them for all the things that all the offences that they had committed, incident 1, 2, and 3. Right. This is not to sort of defend what Stephen Smith ended up doing and sort of spontaneously turning around and looking at his teammates. But why only charge that one incident which had been eventually sorted out and dealt with by the umpires on the field at that point in time? Right. Had Stephen Smith actually asked for the review, he would have been told, I'm sorry, you can't review it because you are sort of gesturing to your team, and that's not done at all. And whether the ICC wants to look at whether this whole business of looking into your dressing room and asking for signals and help and so on, do you need to actually have a punishment on it rather than saying that no review and that's the end of it? That's another matter altogether.
Of course, that is something that we'll talk about later on, of course, whether that clause needs to be inserted in the ICC's code of conduct. Now, you have been rather scathing in your criticism, going through some of the tweets that you've been putting up. Do you feel that this is, in a way, a meek surrender by the BCCI?
I think this is a disaster because you are dealing with Australia. Australians play hardball. Reverse this picture. Suppose you had the Indian captain, after being struck on the pads, in front of the middle stump, at the base of the middle stump, walks up to his partner. Partner says, check with the dressing room. The man turns around, looks at the dressing room, all of Australia would have gone for his throat. There is no way Australians would have let go of that. Remember the Simons incident. I'm not saying who was right, who was wrong, but nobody had any video evidence of that. No hearings were held. Sachin Tendulkar had to go and say whatever he said. Monkey became something else, which is unmentionable or but maybe not that punishable. So India was hauled over the courts. There was no evidence. In this case, there is a clear evidence of cheating. This needed an apology from the Australian board, at least. This is not, oh, I had a brain fade and I came back. Right? Nobody has brain fades like that. I can't pull out a gun and shoot you and say I had a brain fade. Right? Brain fade is, there's a basic principle of all law. A brain fade is no difference. But importantly, I don't think anybody would be sent to jail should have been sent to jail for this. This is an India-Australia series. It's always played the hard way. This board has behaved like one of those old pusillanimous Indian parents who, when he sees his kid fighting with a neighbor, starts beating up his kid in front of the neighbor. So that's what they have done, and I think there will be consequences. The team is furious. There other stuff has happened. For example, I hear now that Mitch Marshall's dismissal for LBW, last ball before tea on day 2, he's not looked at the dressing room, but somebody from dressing room is gesturing at him. An Indian team caught it. Now the fact is, where is the evidence? There are so many cameras working there. Who has all that footage? BCCI has all that footage. Will this BCCI release that footage or use that as evidence? I think you will have to go to Lodha panel to ask for it. Right? So there's a great deal of this is a gentleman's game. Let's go back to being what it was. This Indian team is not a team of gentlemen. And Australian teams haven't been teams of gentlemen for a very long time, no matter what Taryn Lehman says now. They haven't changed, they will not change.
Right. So what he's saying, of course, is that there's bound to be some fallout. Spare a thought for someone like a Virat Kohli who came to a press conference and said, this is not the first time we've seen Steve Smith do this.
In fact, I will say
earlier
this,
as well.
Say this to you. I believe that Virat Kohli had that outburst because he had been given the impression, and now it's quite accurate, by BCCI that they were not going to complain, that he should let bygones be bygones.
You think so?
That's the reason he came out.
He already got that hint.
He is not a crazy cricketer. He may be aggressive and all that, but he's quite smart.
Right. Sharda, you wanted to respond to something?
Yeah, I mean, what's happened in this scenarios, because it's happening on the field, and Australians play hard and whatever. I mean, can I just say there's too much sort of testosterone floating around, both in the press, more than the Australian press than the Indian press, fortunately. But I think this whole thing of sort of Mitchell Starc has been sent home today because of an injury. So, that completely alters the balance of where the series was placed to start with at this point. Within a month's time, Akash, we must remember that all these players will be in the IPL. They'll be the best of friends, buddies, teammates, spirit of the game, and all that stuff will be going on. So we should maybe just take a step back here and not kind of turn this into this, that our nation has been insulted and our boys are in grave anger and so on and so forth. I think there just needs to be a little bit of sort of a step back, because the whole 2008 incident about the Monkey Gate and Harbhajan that Mr. Gupta has brought up, it raised so much of fury and so much of anger, and within years that was forgotten, and Harbhajan and Ricky Ponting were jumping into each other's arms for Mumbai Indians and being very happy.
But Sharda,
so I just think that it's
sorry,
Sharda, if parenting is concerned, that's another saga
Sharda,
altogether.
there is a very big difference between playing for the country and playing for the club.
Yeah, but the point is, I don't think we should.
So I don't care what happens when Steve Smith comes to captain Pune. But if he looks at the dressing room and if the DRS available while playing for Pune, I am sure, I'm sure Kohli as Bangalore's captain will have the same problem.
See that the national pride has been sort of damaged, and the entire country's fate is in the hands of.
No, it's not that. You're exaggerating it.
So this whole thing of parents, not punishing their children. Everyone says that's bad parenting. When your child makes a mistake, you don't punish your child. You start.
But Sharda, you will have to say that in case the complaint wasn't withdrawn for whatever reason, whether they missed the deadline,
this is the neighbor's child has committed a mistake, not yours.
If the complaint was not withdrawn, perhaps the ICC could have also looked into whether this was dishonoring the spirit of the game in a way.
Yeah, but if the complaint was not withdrawn and the charge was laid, then you're going to go into a situation that you've got a judicial commissioner coming in and getting into that whole thing that happened, with the whole Harbhajan and Simons incident and all of that. And then you have to prove, because you are the person that have laid the charge, you have to prove intent of wanting to harm the spirit of the game. At that particular point in time, what Steve Smith did was completely erroneous, completely wrong, completely unfair. No one believes brain fade. But at that point in time, the umpire stepped in and he made the actual decision that had to be taken. The punishment that Steve Smith had to be given was given at that point in time. Right there on the field where he was told, no, you cannot do this.
Right. To be declared out when you are out is not punishment. It's not to be declared out when you are out is not punishment.
No.
It will be punishment.
He was stopped from actually. He asked for a review.
He was caught cheating. He was caught cheating.
Actually, there was no review and he left the field.
But if you're caught cheating, then just because you are caught, you can't say I'm not guilty because I wasn't successful in cheating.
No one is saying he's not guilty. The point is that the incident that was sorted out at that point.
Would you go as far as saying that he cheated? Because that is something that Virat himself almost stopped short of saying.
Of course he cheated.
Yeah. What he did was absolutely against the law at the moment, and the punishment that he had to be given at that point, according to the current rules that there are, he was given. Now, the story completely blew up when Virat came to the press conference and said that this has happened continuously, and so on and so forth. Now, if it had happened continuously, so on and so forth, then you've got to get in this whole thing of we are going to lay charges against you and this, that, and the other. But we have gone back on the complaint that the BCCI that made first to start with was on this incident that took place on the field that had obviously already been taken care of. It's the other stuff
BCCI has all the footage, right? Some court should take charge of all the footage that's available in Bangalore and see.
But very quickly, would you say that this wouldn't have happened if the BCCI of old was around? That if it was
most certain, and frankly, BCCI of the old also would not have taken this to court or something.
Yes,
but they would have pushed the point to such a level that such a thing would not happen in future for It's
No,
not a
can-
question.
Akash, can I
It's
just
not a
come in
question
here
of
for a
national
minute?
pride. It's not a question of national pride. The same
What is
Indian
the
team.
question of if it's not
The
national pride?
same Indian team. John Lever incident. Can you imagine
No.
a John Lever getting away with Vaseline now? Can you imagine a Kepler vessels knocking Kapil Dev in the shin? 1992 December in
Akash,
Port
can I just
Elizabeth
step in
happening
here?
now.
Can I just
I mean,
take an
his
example? There is another
head
example
will
to keep at this
be
point.
taken apart by some Indian. This is a different India. So it's not a question of national pride. Somebody
What is it a
plays
question
hardball,
of?
you play hardball and let somebody pay for it. After all, Harbhajan Singh also got away with it. Steve Smith will also get away with it. But this thing of ab ho gaya, usko bhool jao.
But क्यों नहीं भूलो?
That's not.
I mean, okay, Akash, can I just step in here for one
Very
last
quickly, we're
minute?
almost out of time. Yes.
Yeah. In 2014, there was the incident between Ravindra Jadeja and James Anderson, and the incident was taken actually to this Judicial Commission, level 3 charge, so on and so forth. And it didn't stand up, and they couldn't
But that's
prove
okay.
it. No matter what happened in the dressing room, they couldn't prove it.
That's
You know,
okay.
it is so. I mean, the thing is that you were not able to get. Is it just the gesture of taking it to the complaint?
Yes. That's what's important.
No,
That is to
just
say.
rather the
No. That is
outcome.
to say, if you guys take us to that limit, so will we. So you don't do it again.
No, what is the limit here? What is the limit here?
Going to a judicial commission as Harbhajan was taken.
Not Harbhajan, Ravindra Jadeja and
No,
James
no.
Anderson.
Harbhajan was taken in the Simon's case, India, Australia. I'm talking about.
James Anderson and
No, that is-
Ravindra Jadeja.
that is-
James Anderson was taken
Yes.
to that hearing. It was a level 3 of-
So next time England has such an opportunity, I guarantee to you they will take you to court.